Hey, what's up? What's up,
What's
Mayor?
up, Mitch?
Mayor
Good, good.
Billy,
How are
man.
you?
I'm great. I'm great.
How you
Yeah,
doing?
man. Looking forward to chatting with you here.
Oh,
So,
it's gonna be awesome.
heck yeah. Mayor and I wanted to have a conversation just about what we've been up to really over the past year and a half to year.
Hmm.
Um, it's been really cool to see. So it's not just us. There's a lot of us involved with self-perfected and with TechnoTutor that are really moving ourselves. And we're going to share this video so that you can gain some insight into that for yourself, as well as see different ways that we found how to go from one level of living to definitely a whole nother level. So
Hmm.
without further ado, let's jump in the deep end.
Let's do it, man.
So
And
how
I would,
about this?
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's more like um since when was the Corona thing started? Because that's when we really started growing, right? And it's like when I
Yeah.
say that to people, people are like, "What do you mean?" Because you see, everyone is like in fear. They're like, "Oh, I'm fucked. Like, I don't know what to do." All these people who are going to university to get a degree that thought like, oh, I'm gonna get a secure job because now I have a degree. They're like, literally, COVID showed them how none of the jobs are secure because all of them fucking lost their jobs. Even my cousin who studied like 6 years to become one of the top levels of engineering, he was fucking in fear of like, dude, everyone's like leaving the company or they're firing. And so it's really cool how when everyone was in this fear, literally every single person within our group of TechnoTutor and self-perfected, like literally skyrocketed like exponentially. So that's like the time frame for people to see. It's like when COVID started, that's when things started happening, right? So
Yeah. Well said.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back even before Iran, right?
Mhm.
And then when did you come to America?
So before I came to America, I went to Austria for like 9 months. I was like 14, I would say, when we went to Austria. And we stayed there for like 8 months or so. And then we came to America. That was like the program we were in. I don't know much about it. But yeah, when I came here, it was towards like it was September of 2013. It was like towards almost the second semester of like eighth grade, right? And I was technically supposed to go to ninth grade, but they said, oh, you didn't finish the last 2 weeks in your country and you didn't take the final, so you have to take the whole eighth grade again. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Because I like hated school, you know? And so yeah, I came here when I was around like almost 15, I would say. And now I'm like 22. I just turned 22 like past April. So what is that, like 7 years, almost 8 years? I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right
So
on.
that
And well, yeah, and when you came over, because I mean, I know you now, the mayor that runs a clubhouse, and you have a full community, and like you're living a very awesome life. But
Mhm.
from what I gather, from the bit I know, like you were not always this social go-getter guy who's taking responsibility. So like
Mhm.
what was that young mayor like when you arrived here in America?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, definitely. I was not the mayor I am today, right? And so for I don't know if you mentioned, so I'm from Iran, right? From the capital of Iran, Tehran. And I was born and raised there until I was like again 14 and a half or whatever before I came here. And I remember there, it's interesting. Before I started doing TechnoTutor, so I found TechnoTutor at one of the Gin events, right? Gin is like a success group we're a part of, right? And I went to like one of the events. That's where I found people. Like before I got TechnoTutor, I didn't remember the first like much of my first 14 years of my life. It's like it was just like a
Wow.
cloud, right? Because of like how fucking depressed and everything I was back in Iran, you know? And I mean, straight up in the school over there, if you don't do your homework or something, like they line you up and they beat the shit out of you, right? In front of other kids, private, like all sorts of stuff. And imagine what that does to you as a child growing up, you know?
Mhm.
Just being yelled at in front of people is like imagine how embarrassing. So now imagine being hit in front of other people, like your friends, your close friends, you know? And so I remember in Iran, I was like very shy, like very introverted, right? Like to the extreme. Like that guy, when we would go out with my mom and dad, like I would literally hide behind my dad, right? And I wouldn't like talk or anything. I would just sit in the corner. My parents were like, go play with the kids. I was like, you know, because I couldn't even communicate. Like I could not make friends. And it was just, imagine being a kid who doesn't know how to communicate with anyone, who is dyslexic as shit, you know, like I never read, like if I read for like few seconds, I would like be really sleepy, you know, and I never understood when I would read, like it was so bad I could not finish a sentence and go to the next one. It's like when I would finish a sentence, I could not find the next one. So sometimes I had to put my finger like this to see where the second line is and shit, you know? So it's like it was really frustrating to read books and all that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the guy. Well, later when I came here, I was like, when I saw how important it is to have money within the current, you know, money system of, it's required for you to have money to have at least survive, like before even having any influence or anything. It's just survival. And for those who say, but like you don't need money to be happy and this and that, guarantee they're working a job 9 to 5 that they fucking hate, right? So because I used to have the same mentality, and I was like, why am I fucking stressed all the time? And I'm like, I don't know how to pay for food and stuff like that. At the same time, I'm like, oh, you don't need money to be happy. It was just I was afraid of making money because I did not know how to do that, right? So yeah, I mean, in Iran, imagine that kid who also I never worked out. You know, I always like from the age of 3, 4, or however much, I was like really little. I used to play video games, right? Like Call of Duty and like games that was not best for a 3, 4 year old to be playing, you know, like scary games and all of that. Like I would have a lot of nightmares. I remember at some point, like I would wake up in the middle of the night and literally see a bunch of like shadows and stuff like in the room, you know. I was like, fuck, you know. And and in terms of making friends, again, it was just literally the friends in my classroom, like, which if you're with your friends for fucking from first like kindergarten to like middle school, you'll get to know them and they'll get to know you, you know. That's like enough time. But I wasn't the type of person to like meet someone and become friends within even a few weeks, you know. And in terms of girls, I never communicated with any girls because in Iran, like boys and girls go to separate schools. And so I never communicated. It was so bad that even if you go, I don't know how it is now, but back then it's like if, let's say, boyfriend, girlfriend go to a park and a cop or something like a soldier is walking by and he sees you two, he can ask for like your marriage license or whatever. And if you're not married, they can literally take you to jail for like a night or two because you're not married and stuff, you know. It's like to that level, right?
Wow.
So that's a little bit of like my background. And you can see if you don't know how to make friends, if you I wasn't social at all, right? And some people, parents like here say like, oh, I want to send my kids to school so they can learn how to be social and socialize. It's like school is a fucking worst place to send your kids to get socialized because they'll be made fun of. Like people would pick on them, they get bullies. Like it's the opposite. Like their self-esteem is gonna go down. And imagine in Iran seeing your friends hit, it's even worse, right? So at least here they don't hit the kids, but you never know what else they do. But it's like it was intense in Iran, you know. Like I didn't know internet. I remember I thought YouTube was only like a music platform, and obviously I didn't have access to YouTube because I never had internet until I came here. I didn't even have a phone even when I came here until I was like 18, 19 or something, right? And or a wallet or like any money. I never had money in my pocket. I was like feel guilty about having money in my pocket, right? Like that's how I was programmed, right? So that's a little bit about of my
Yeah,
past, you see.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean that's so fascinating because a lot of what we talk about within self-perfected and TechnoTutor is that programming. So yeah, being a kid, not being exposed to anything really that's going to support you to actually create a better life for yourself. It's basically just go through the system, get chewed up and spit out, work a job that you hate, and then maybe you retire when you're 65, you know, and you live 5 years of your life and then you die. Like that is the system, right? And that's what you were programmed with. That's what I was programmed with. But, you know, thankfully we're rising ourselves out of that. And it's not just for us to be, oh, we're so great because we did it. It's like, no, we're here to actually change it. But we'll get into that, you know, a little bit further on.
For sure.
I find that fascinating, man, how just those beliefs like around money, right? How you're like feeling guilty having money.
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of that similar stuff. Cause those first 7 years, I mean, I was, especially those first 7 years, right? No one supported me to understand anything about business, money, how to communicate with people. It was just like, how do you get as much positive emotions as you can, and how do you avoid the negative emotions? And that was like the purpose of life. Just you know,
which as a kid, like, how are you supposed to do that? Like, how do you know what's positive and what's not? It's like everything is just happening, and you can't control, like, oh, I choose this to be my programming. And by programming we mean like that, like foundation of how you're raised as a child and how you perform in society, and like the words you say, like your actions, you know, whether you're social or not social, and your tonality, like all of that is based on that first 7 years. And it's like you said, with like, you know, no one ever taught us how to make money and this and that. And on top of that, there's like all these Disney movies and all these cartoons and everything that's like programming you to hate making money, because the person in those movies, like, take what's one of the Disney movies, like Cinderella or something like that. It's like you see the princess first starts like she's literally in a basement, like tied up like a fucking slave, right? But she's pretty, so no one's like, oh, this and that. And then you see the person with the most money, who has like the biggest house and the castle and this and that, who's fucking evil, who looks evil, who fucking, the way they talk is like they're destroying lives. And so obviously the kid is like, oh, I want to be like this cute princess. So fuck that person who has a lot of money. And it's like you're programmed to like, oh, if I make a lot of money, I'm gonna be that person who destroys lives, which is like, that's not the case, but that's how we're being programmed without even knowing it, right?
Yes. And that's what's going to be challenging for some people watching this, is that you got to realize that programming is still running the show for you. Like, just be blunt, right? And you can change that, right? That's the tools that we talk about. But you got to be honest with yourself. You did get programmed in your first 7 years. And unless you've used these tools to change that, you're just, you know, you're stuck in it. It's your limitation. But
exactly.
you don't have to stay limited. But so like for me, how I had that play out, like I had decent upbringing. I mean, I never got like hit in school, like they don't have that here in America. But you're right. Who knows what actually happens in all the schools? But like I did not know what I wanted to do. I did not know what it took to be successful in life. I just knew that some days I felt really shitty, and that was like, you know, the suffering of just life. And I was like, okay, it's kind of just part of life, right? Depressed, anxious, trying to fit in, just not supported as a human really at all. And I remember I took a psychology class in high school, and I remember hearing about anxiety. I was like, oh, this is that reason that I feel like shit when I wake up in the morning. Like, oh, you're telling me I could do something about this anxiety? So that really opened me up. I was like, damn, I like this idea of trying to understand our mind. How does our mind work? And then how can we kind of change how we use our mind to have a better life? That was like the basic. Little did I didn't know shit back then. None of the textbooks or the teachers knew anything. But guess what? I went for 4 years and I got my degree, right? So now I'm a bachelor's of science, right? In psychology, right? The Holy Grail. I have my certificate. Wrong. Because I didn't know shit about making money or how to actually affect real change in people's lives. Like, is there a time and place for therapy? Yeah, for a certain person at a certain point in their life, maybe they need someone to talk to in that specific context. But for the vast majority of people who are getting therapy, counseling, that type of thing, you're
Mm-hmm.
not getting to the root of the issue. It's like you're bleeding out and you're putting on a band-aid. And guess what? That band-aid's going to get all dried up and it's going to fall off and you're going to need another one and another one. Instead of supporting your body to do what it does best, which is actually heal. But like you have
Mm-hmm.
to understand that. So then I'm like studying psychology, thinking, okay, if we can, learn about this, maybe we can make there be a better world. And then at the same time, I'm starting to watch like documentaries and I'm getting aware like, oh shit, like the world's in a bad spot. And wow, the rate at which we're destroying the planet is like
Oh yeah.
pretty high. Like, there's like all these species every day that go extinct. So I'm just like this
Mm-hmm.
confused person going through
Mm-hmm.
life like, God, like what is the meaning of this all? Around that time, because I kept trying to figure out how to do psychology, right? But it didn't, it didn't, I thought I was just going to go the route of like, okay, just get a secure job, you practice, you're a psychotherapist and, whatever. Thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
I had a professor at university. He's like, hey, you should realize like you can take this into the business world. I was like, huh? I never even thought about that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
someone gave me a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, the guy who's the founder of PayPal and is a tech guy. And I
Mm-hmm.
read that book and I was like, damn, this is how you really affect change. You create a technology that's so disruptive, like Uber or an iPhone or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the mechanism by which you can really start to change people. So that really started to open my eyes. I was like, okay, I want to get involved into entrepreneurship. So I moved out to the East Coast at that time. So I was living in Boston. I was working at a bunch of different startups. It was cool, but I was like, it was the next phase I needed, but I could never really make money, right? I didn't know how
Yeah.
to be effective and actually deserve more money. Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
when you're really effective and it some people get all riled up about this, but it's just straight up the case. Like you need to be so good that you deserve to get paid more,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And so I got this opportunity because I learned one skill that was really valuable, which was networking, how to talk to people and how to just stay in touch with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that really started to open up some opportunity for me. And I got a chance to so I met this guy, his name's Gerard Adams. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a fairly successful entrepreneur. Um, Made millions in his early 20s, lost it in the stock market. I mean, you can find him online in the stories. But then he built a company called Elite Daily, which was this like blog publication, and he
Mm-hmm.
sold it back in like 2015 to the Daily Mail for $50 million. And so he knew a thing or two about the business world, and I got the opportunity to go and work with him and be on his team and see the grind day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was awesome because at that time I saw I don't know shit about business. I need to be around people who understand this. So I threw myself in that environment. It was cool, eye-opening, got to learn a lot. And then around the same time, I got targeted by Tai Lopez, right? He's like
Yeah.
every 18-year-old guy in America either knows Tai Lopez or is one degree of
Yeah.
separation with someone who knows that. And so
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
targeting me, about these Lamborghinis and living in Hollywood Hills and all
Mm-hmm.
that. But he's like, but I get here because I have knowledge, right? I can read all these books. And he shows his
Yeah.
library, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, it's really good marketing. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
damn, this guy knows how to market. And I then just became obsessed with reading books as well. So he started sharing books, so I'm reading like the biography of Sam Walton, the guy who started Walmart. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, this is really cool. Or I'm reading about like the brain and neuroscience and all this stuff where I was reading it, but in terms of could I actually take that information or the stuff I did with Gerard, could I take that and actually use it to make money?
Yeah.
Hell, well, my bank account didn't show that I could. So was I really
Yeah.
learning or was I really reading?
Mm.
That all, thankfully, though, led me to meet a mentor at a different event, and he explained to me, "I'm Jin, and your wish is your command." So Global
Okay.
Information Network, and that was
Mm-hmm.
that was cool. So I started listening to that training. Right, I'm learning about law of attraction. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like manifesting like simple shit, right? Like a parking spot and like
And how
coffee.
many books were you reading? Just so people know, like a year, let's
I
say.
definitely had multiple years where I had read over 100 books, and like
Yeah.
not just skimmed these things, like sat there and like
Yeah.
went through, took notes, underlined them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
And one
yeah,
point on that is like for people who are like, oh, maybe Mitch couldn't process it or this or that, but if I do it, because you see a lot of people that are like, oh, if I read enough books, then I'll do this and that. It's like Mitch is a fucking smart dude. Like the average person can't even read 50 books a year. So the fact that you were reading 100 books tells you like how intelligent you were, but obviously there was some part that wasn't clicking for you to apply that, so you can get into. I just wanted to emphasize that point, right?
yeah, well, yeah, because it's like, what is reading actually, right? We're all like, oh, I can read, right? I can read the newspaper, I can read the blog post. It's like,
Yeah.
picture how Michael Phelps, the gold medal swimmer,
Mhm.
right? Imagine you go to Michael Phelps, you're like, hey, Michael, I can swim. He's like, you can swim. Okay, yeah, that's not fucking swimming. Like, I swim.
Yeah.
That's like us thinking, oh, I can read. Then talking to someone like Bill Gates or Mark Cuban, who are
Yeah.
billionaires. They're like, yeah, you can read. It's like, that's what I realized with myself. I'm like, I was reading 100 books. I wasn't reading 100 books. Because if I did, I would be fucking rich at that moment. Like, I would know what to do. I'd put business deals together. I'd build a team. I would scale, and I would be very wealthy.
Exactly.
I was freaking broke, living paycheck to paycheck for years, reading these books, right? I'd be like, oh, I don't have the money for the Amazon book, but like, if I could just get it, maybe that'll have the answer, right? So I'm searching for answers, searching. And I didn't realize, God, this sounds so freaking cliche, but I didn't realize the answer was within myself. But it's not that simple. You can't just say, oh, the answer is within. Haha. It's like, no, it's freaking locked away inside you in the flesh of your body. It's there are programs within yourself that are basically keeping you stuck. That was at least for me, right? And I was like stuck at this level of, I couldn't break through my ceiling of how much money I could make, right? So, but then it's okay. Fast forward, right? I'm listening to Your Wish Is Your Command. I'm listening to the gin training, Kevin Trudeau. I joined gin, all this stuff. I hadn't gone to an event yet, right? Key moment in my life. But I was living in California at this time, and this guy ends up, he comes living with me and my friend. He needed a place to stay for like 2 months. He was traveling around America from Thailand. I presume to learn that this I'm not going to call him a kid, but he's like 20 when I met him, basically a kid. He had made in his first he was making over 5 million a year in e-commerce. And he's profiting like 20% of this. So, that's something fairly substantial in terms of like business acumen and that ability. So he's living with us. So I'm like, hey man, like, can I watch what you do? Like, so I found kind of ways to like barter with him. He wanted to like learn how to eat healthier. So I'm like trading him, right? I'm like, hey, this guy did this, right? Show me how to make millions. And I'm freaking doing that. And I'll just put it like this: 8 months later, I still could not break out of my level of my programming. It was like I'd make about $2.5 grand a month in profit, and then I would just sabotage it. It was like no matter what happened, the money found a way to leave my account. I found a way to get it growing, and then it would just stop. It's like a plane trying to take off, and it's like, back down. And the last place I turned, finally, I'm like, okay, this gin thing, let me get to one of these events.
Wait, so how long ago was that? Just so people can see the timeline.
This was in 2018, 2019. Beginning of 2019, I was still in California. And this is when I was like, I'm serious. Like, I had made the decision, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be successful. Like, I have what it takes. So I was doing a shitload of personal development. Like, I would read my affirmations and write them down like hours a day. Like, I would write my goals. I would visualize it. I went to the car dealership and sat in the Porsche. I went ham on the stuff. And I was still freaking not breaking through my ceiling. But then, so 2019, then August, I went to that gin event in Denver. And that was then, it was awesome. I love to meet the gin people. It was such a good network of people for business and opportunities and just a fun time. And there was a subset of people within Gin where I was like, damn, like you guys got your shit together. Like, I don't know quite what it is, but like, I want what you guys have. There's something about the way you carry yourselves. And so then I got to meet Kian, as well as yourself and, you know, Drake and Asif and all that. And I got to meet Cameron and Avery. And I was like, okay. So they showed me then, hey, the reason you're stuck because you don't understand how humans actually change. Like there's shit inside of you that you have to process through and get rid of. And you also have to put new stuff in if you want to be successful. Hey, if you don't want to be successful, fine, stay where you're at. But if you're telling me you want to be a multi-millionaire or a billionaire one day, like you would already know, like you'd already be on the path to be there if you were going to be. And me, you know, still at that time, after I'd moved out of California, I didn't know where I wanted to live, but I moved back to Minnesota. So I was living with my parents for a few months because I'm like, I might want to live downtown. I don't know. I'm just figuring my shit out. So it was like this moment of truth that I had to look at for myself where I finally became honest. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Maybe I can learn from these guys.
And that takes a lot, like from you, like knowing you, like to come to that point. That means like how fucked your life was just to come to that, like admit that, you know? So yeah.
Because I had a long time where I could not admit it to myself. It was like, no, I have to fake it till I make it. Like, I have to be this motivated person. Dude, I did all that shit. I went to I fucking hugged Tony Robbins. I walked on fire. I literally walked across hot coals for like 7 seconds, right? So I proved to myself the power of the mind, right? Where I don't burn my feet. You know, that's not actually what's happening, but it's like, so you would think, oh, I'm aware of this magical power that the humans have, right? But guess what? 2 days later, I'm back at work, hating my job, hating what I'm doing. So it's like, you can get as hype as you want, right? Like you can have the highest of high experience. It doesn't matter because it's not real. It's not going to last. You have to change the structure. Like you could be as hype as you want, but it's like, imagine you're building a building. You can put as much like thought and you can put people together and you can talk and have all the conversations, but until that building actually gets built and the walls are there and it's enclosed and it's like the foundation's there and you build it up, that's what it takes to actually build. It's a real physical structure because you live in a physical universe.
Actually with that, a good example with that, I've never given this example, just you talking, I saw it this way. It's like, imagine the builder, the master builder wants to build a building. He sees the vision of what it's going to be, like this fucking skyscraper, right? But no matter how much he visualizes it every day, unless you actually start putting the bricks together or like the metal or build the footing, like the foundation, it's like, it's not going to happen. So it's like, it's both of like having that positive, optimistic mindset, but also taking action, right? Because you can't you can't be negative all the time because then you just want to kill yourself. So it's like the positivity, we're not saying don't be positive. It's like, no, that's good. But the action part is what people are missing, right? If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it's the right action. Because, dude, I took a lot of action, but I was freaking spinning my wheels. And it was like, I do all this activity, right? And I'd work these 10, 12-hour days.
Yeah.
And it was like those key moments where I had to really shift in my perspective and all that. That's where it was like, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. And now looking back, hindsight, right? Like I see it, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I know how to work through that now, but so that was kind of my journey too. So I think both of us have that in common of like, we didn't necessarily realize right away just how not prepared we were for the world. But then we took the steps to say, you know what? Hey, maybe I don't know it all. So we became teachable, right? And then when the student is ready to teach your peers, right? So
it's like we were both action takers, but we were taking action on building the first floor on like a sand instead of first seeing like, what the fuck, we don't even have a footing or a foundation deep enough so we can build on top of it. So we're taking action, but we were fucking building it on sand because we were like, oh, this is a cool view, ocean, everything. We'll just build it fucking on the sand here. It's like, no, there's like, you have to build the foundation and everything, right?
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
what we were missing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, like, I think it'd be cool for us to discuss a bit about now in present time what this looks like. I mean, like for yourself, I mean, I've seen you in Houston now, I think we've come down there like 3 times in the past year. And
Yeah.
every time we're there, like, I mean, now you're moving into the luxury apartment. You already have your Mercedes. You have a whole community. You building a sales team. Like, you're clearly you've clearly figured out enough to have real momentum. What's that been like for you in the past, let's say, yeah, kind of since COVID, when it's
Yeah.
so funny, right? Everyone's like, oh, COVID, let's just say 2020, let's put that behind us. I'm like, dude, let's still learn from 2020, but
Yeah.
2020 was freaking amazing, right? So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
what's that been like for you?
Gotcha. Okay. So I remember when COVID hit, at first it's like you heard about it here and there before it got really serious of like fucking people going into lockdown mode. I remember I was still working like a 9 to 5 job. I was working with one of my dad's friend. He had like this eBay store. He was selling like sick covers online, like for trucks of like Chevy, Tahoe, and stuff like that, like from 1999 to like 2000, something like that, right? And um I was working with him and kind of like doing marketing, and also my English was better than him, so I would do like customer service. And like you said, you study psychology. I got obsessed with like psychology and understanding how our minds work, how just scrolling through Instagram, a person through the screen can fucking persuade me to buy their course that gives nothing, for thousands of dollars. So that became fascinating to me. And so I was good. Like, I remember I got to, well, before I actually got to that point, so I was making about 1,500. If I made 1,500 at this job, it was really good. I was working Monday to Friday, sometimes very few like Saturdays, from like 11 in the morning to like 7, 8 at night, or whenever we were done, right? Because it was like a online store. It was not like Cane's or McDonald's where it's like this hour to that hour, right? And I remember working at that place, and at first it was kind of fun because it's like I know the guy, we're friends, we both speak Farsi, and it's like an online business, and it wasn't like there was someone yelling at you all the time of like do this, do that. So I didn't have that aspect, but eventually like that becomes like boring, and I was like, fuck, why am I still here? And I got to a point. I remember I went at first, I started making like $8 an hour. I was like there towards the end of my high school. And then within just a few months, I was able to get to like $15 an hour. And past that, he couldn't do that. He was like, he had like a few other employees. He was like, I would go broke if I pay you more and stuff. I was like, okay. And I remember I kept working there, and it got to a point where this is around COVID time, right? And I remember at one time I got involved with TechnoTutor. I saw like the money side, how much you can make. Again, for that, if you don't know about that, you can reach out to either me or Mitch, or links. I'm pretty sure if it's on YouTube or whatever, it will be somewhere in the description or something. I remember I saw the numbers. I was like, holy shit, I can make a lot of money and help a lot of people. Because there's a lot of fucking opportunities out there to make money, but none of them actually help change anyone's life, right? Like, I'm pretty sure there's something in your house that you were so excited to, and you bought, but after a few days or a week, you're like, I'm not even using it. I don't even know where it is anymore in
Yeah.
the house,
And
right?
and for
Yeah.
anyone who's like, no, my Forex MLM or my cryptocurrency thing, that changes people's lives because it gives them financial freedom. It's like, no, it doesn't. Stop bullshitting yourself. Money doesn't solve anyone's problem if their education is still screwed up. They'll make a lot of
Exactly.
money, and then they'll either get addicted to drugs, they'll make stupid decisions, and they'll go more into debt. Just the
Yeah.
same principle, like when people win the lottery, they end up worse off after. That's
Oh
what your
yeah.
Forex MLM thing is doing for people. And so I'm just going to put that out there because
Great
when we
point.
talk about you make a lot of money with TechnoTutor and you change people's lives, it's for real. It's not one of those other things. So
Yeah, it's the stuff you can go into your bank and be like, oh, I have more money in my bank. It's not just in your head of like, oh, I feel like something's happening, you know?
yeah, or my Dogecoin just rose all that amount. It's like, okay, well, are you going
Yeah.
to cash it out and turn it into US dollars, or are you going to, keep being in this imaginary world?
Yeah, exactly. That's like, it's like, imagine you go in a game and it's like you playing pool on your phone, right? It's like you're like, oh, I have 1 billion coins. It's like, okay, but how much of that is real coins? It's like, or real money? It's like, oh, none of it. And some people are like, spend real money to get fake money, you know?
Yeah.
But that's a great point because I know way more people who did Forex and all this stuff who that was good for a while, but then lost all of it and fucking became depressed, went back to their parents' home. And so I know more people who are more depressed afterwards than they started beforehand without
And
having that much money.
and the real people who are actually making money in crypto, it's because it's not their main thing. They're
Oh yeah.
already very effective. They know how to build business. They understand that, and then they park 10% of their wealth in crypto.
Exactly.
That's how you approach crypto. Not, oh, I'm
Exactly.
gonna put in $100 and I'm gonna hope and pray it rises. It's like that's literally gambling, and you're wasting your precious life staring at your computer screen instead of going out there and actually developing yourself and your character, which that's what Mayor and I have been like. You have to do that to be successful in TechnoTutor, and it's the best thing
Exactly.
ever. Like, it's better than
Yeah,
the money. It's like who you become. But anyway, keep going.
exactly. And like, yeah, who you become and the network of people, like you mentioned earlier, it's like in your life, that critical point was realizing how important networks are, right? And if you look at everyone's program to be introverts and not have a network, and if you don't have a network, then you're not gonna grow, right? So that's just another point. But thanks for like bringing those points because these are like valuable. Like go back, listen to this whole thing over again because we're sharing so many different points and
It's a lot in
a
here. Yeah.
lot of shit has happened. Yeah, exactly. And so back to the point, it's like I was at that job, right? And I remember I saw the money for TechnoTutor. I was like, shit, I can make a lot of money with this. So I remember I told the guy, I was like, no, I'm good. I can make 10 times as much as I'm making, in a single day. So I don't need this. And I like quit that place, right? Obviously I found him a person and then I quit that place, right? And it didn't take that long. Within like a month or two, I was like, shit, I don't know how to fucking sell. And I hate selling people, right? I had all those programmings of like, oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to be rejected. What if my own family fucking rejects me? Like, think about that. you know, it's like imagine you're in a relationship, right? And you say you go to your partner, you want to have sex, and your partner rejects you. You're like, oh, great. Like the only person I have sex with doesn't want me to fuck. Like, great. So it's like imagine like that was me for sales. I was like, I don't want to like tell my friends or family in this. And it took me a long time to realize like, as I was having those things, I was actually changing in my life. Like for first time, I remember I went on Facebook and I was scrolling. I saw one of Cameron's posts. And sometimes in Facebook, some people share like a lot of text and there's like see more. It's like I got to a point that I had resistance to just hitting that see more button and just seeing fucking a lot of text unfold. And I was like, fuck, okay, just scroll down, And I remember the first time I hit that see more, fucking a novel opened up and I actually read through that whole thing. And I remember I got so excited and I commented. My comment had nothing to do with the post. I commented like, holy shit, I fucking read the whole thing for the first time. And I've never been able to do that. Like, that's when I realized for myself, like something's happening within me, right? I didn't quite understand it, but I was like, if that's fucking miracle for me to happen, to like read through something and actually understand it, you see?
And just to be clear, so this is after you got TechnoTutor, and
This is after,
roughly,
yeah,
because that was the shift, right? You're able to
yeah,
process that information, those words. Was this like
exactly.
a month, 2 months after that, or?
So I remember when I first bought TechnoTutor, I still didn't know what it was. I couldn't process anything they were telling me, like
It's
Drake,
so funny. I had the
Cameron.
same thing. I'm like, I still
Yeah,
don't fully understand this thing, but let me just
yeah,
get it. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
no.
And it's like you knew English as well. I was fucking dyslexic. I couldn't even communicate. So imagine for me, I was like, yeah, I don't know what this is, but you're telling me, I can make more money, or I can have this or that. I remember for me, the selling point was like, I would have like a lot of things on my whiteboard and it would be there for months. Like I would never do them, right? And I was like really lazy, procrastinating a lot. And I remember Drake telling me a story of his friend that would take this to-do list and put it in his TechnoTutor, and unconsciously would end up doing it and without any resistance. And I was like, so you're telling me if I put on my whiteboard, like, you know, I want to do this thing, or I want to make $1,000 this month and put that in TT, eventually that'll happen. And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, fucking sign me up. Like, you know, I want to buy this. I don't know how that even works, you know? And it's very simple, the program. Like you see it, you're like, this is so simple. How is this going to change my life? But it's like that simplicity that actually helps it. Because if it was complicated, you would not fucking do that every day, you know? So, but yeah, I remember with for the first year of my technique, to answer your question, like I used it, maybe I would use it a day, don't use it for a week, I use it here and there. And back then there weren't as many people, like we didn't have something like self-perfected where fucking, how many people are there? Like almost 1,000 people at this point, really pushing themselves every day, that are actually living their life based on principles, based on like giving as they want to receive and so forth. Like I didn't have that back then. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just use it a little bit here, use it there. It's like going to the gym for a day. You're like, but I don't see that much change. And then not doing it for a week, and then you're going back. It's like, no, you have to be consistent to see that change physically, right? So that consistency for me happened. Back to that story, it's like I quit that job. I went into financial pressure. I was like, okay, can I get the job back? He gave me the job back because he's like, I was like his best worker or whatever. And it got around that COVID time where businesses started shutting down. He was like, no, I want to still sell more, you know. I guess that's how Persians think, right? But no, I'm just kidding. It was like, because we were like, we're online business, like, you know. And I remember my friend, I had built him a website because I knew how to design websites and stuff, but I never sold anything. Like I would build websites, get to the point of selling, and all of a sudden all this fear of like, oh, what if these people sue me? What if they send it back? What if this, what if that? And I was like, oh, fuck it, just close it, you know? And so I had built him a website because he only had one eBay account, right? I was like, dude, you should have multiple, because what if they shut this down? All of you are gonna lose your jobs. So I built him a website, and the way in that business, like the people who would call in to buy those seat covers, because they were for old cars. And so the people who owned those cars were now in like their 60s, 70s, who did not know how to just go on a website, add to cart, and check out, you know? They were like old style, like calling in and wanting to place orders over the phone, right? So my friend, he has like a strong like Persian accent. So most people would just hang up just hearing his voice, right? So my friend was like, Mayor, like you gotta talk to these people. You don't have like that much accent, like please, you know? And I was like, no, I'm not fucking talking to strangers, you know? What if they yell at me, you know? And and I remember I remember for first time, around that time, that's when, you know how for you accepted for first time, like, okay, I'm not where I want to be in life. Like I don't have the things physically, like really becoming self-honest. That's when I became really self-honest. I was like, fuck, I need to start using the tools more, like using TechnoTutor more, and also using DIP, which is like, that was life-changing. That increased my self-awareness. I'm pretty sure for you too, like it increases your self-awareness, your self-honesty, your self, like if you want to again learn about anything we're sharing or want to hear more, like reach out to us, right? But I remember that's when I became consistent, and I was like, okay, I have these fears, like he's telling me to do the calls, I have fears too doing it, so let me maybe put it in TechnoTutor, you know, and do some self-forgiveness on it and see what happens, because everyone's telling me like how they did that process and it changed everything. So I remember I did it, and I went back the next day, and my first call, I was like fucking terrified. I like froze in the middle of a call. You know, the guy's talking and I like freeze up, and the guy's like, hey, is anyone there? And my friend just picks up the phone and continued the call. Like I couldn't talk. I was like paralyzed, you know? That was the first call. But because I had done that technique in self-forgiveness, I just breathed, and I ended up doing more calls. And by the end of that day, just on his website, that had no sales on it before, I closed over $2,000 in a single day, right?
Wow.
In like
Wow.
upsells and everything over the phone, right?
Wow.
And I never had sold anyone over phone before. And the next day it was like $4,000. And in that month, I sold over $30,000 in 1 month from a website that was like fresh. And our website was fucked. Like you would go there, you would be lost. Like you couldn't find anything there, right? So we made sure just to make that number like big, right? So people could call and we could close them. And like the live chat, like I kept using my TechnoTutor, doing self-forgiveness, and I would go back and physically I was changing. Like I was closing people over messages, like when like live chat, right? People would contact us and we're like, oh, I don't like this, or this is ripped and this and that. And I would sell him 3 more things and he was actually happy. Instead of returning it, he would buy more and he would refer us to his friends and everything. Like I would introduce myself as like Leo, because if I said Mahyar like or Mahyar, they wouldn't be able to do it. So I would just say Leo. It got to a point in like month and a half where people would come to the shop looking for Leo, right?
Wow.
Like that's how it was selling, right? So I remember that 3 months of like COVID really happening, lockdowns happening, people like other sick cover companies shutting down. I generated, I think, around over 90,000, around $100,000 in just less than 3 months, like 2.5 months over phone, right? In like upsells and all that stuff. So, and I remember I went to my friend, I was like, so out of this, like, how much are you gonna give me like in commissions and this and that? And he was like, this, that. Long story short, he didn't give me any commissions out of like that $100,000 that I sold. And keep in mind, his eBay, I was selling more. I was selling like 2 to 3 times more on his website per month than he was selling on his eBay that he had for 5 years, right? Just to keep in mind. And so he was like, yeah, I'm like, he didn't give me any commissions. And I love the guy, like he's a really cool guy. But I was like, dude, this is not fucking fair. So there was like an epiphany moment that I had. I was like, wait a second, if I used my TechnoTutor and self-forgiveness and was able to generate $100,000 in a company that fucking sells sick covers, you know, it's like, what if I just take that and apply it to my TechnoTutor business, right? Because I wanted to grow that, but I made like one sale, but that was to my best friend because he felt bad and he bought it, you know. So I was like, that wasn't an actual sale. And so I ended up doing that. I started waking up at like 4 a.m. and doing my TechnoTutor and going to the gym and doing my TechnoTutor self-forgiveness. And I remember that 1 month, right? I also quit that job because that guy, he had always this insecurity of like, Mahyar can leave me at any time. And I want someone who can stay here with me, you know? And so he like fired me. I don't know. I quit. Something happened. We're like, okay, yeah, it's best for me to just go, right? And I had no other job. And again, at that business, the most I made in 1 month was like $1,700, but that was from fucking working 40 hours a week or maybe more. And I remember quitting that job. That same month, I started doing my TechnoTutor self-forgiveness, applying it to my own business. And I ended up making $8,000 in 1 day, right? Or specifically in like 2 hours, right? And I was like, what the fuck? You know, I was like, how? You know, I made so much money. I was like, I don't even need to work for the rest of the month, you know? And I don't think if I worked for the rest of the month or no, because I still didn't have that programming of like, no, keep going, keep building. It's like hitting a jackpot. And I remember I realized, oh, let me keep going. And I kept going and I made like 10,000 the next month or something. And this was like cash, like fucking this much like bills, like $100 bills, you know? And I was like, what the fuck? And the people who I saw TechnoTutor to were actually like their life started changing. Like their family started noticing, their friends, they started making more money. They had better relationships. And I was like, dude, what is happening? This is so cool. And that was around the time, Mitch, when me and you started talking, right? And I was like, dude, this group is going, like, this is so cool. So that's when I like bought my Mercedes, right? And I started doing clubhouses, which every week on Saturday, like people come there, right? We hang out, we like eat snacks, we have lunch, we go to the pool. Like at this, like our last clubhouse, we went to like a pool. Nick, his grandparents had like a really nice like ranch type thing, property, and it had a nice pool, and it was like really fun. And it's like people come back to like mastermind, learn, just we're growing, growing like Houston,
Mhm.
and I started doing all of that. And now it's like I'm moving to my new apartment like July 12th, right? And I remember that I did not want to move out because I was like, I don't want to cook. I don't know how to grocery shop. I remember the first time I grocery shop, I went to the shop, I bought $50 worth of snacks, came back home, realized, oh fuck, I don't have anything for dinner, and I spent $50, you know? And so like I was not good at shopping, you know? So it's like I just used the tools and the network, right? Because it's important.
Mhm.
Like you can have the tool, but if you don't have the network of even seeing what's possible, like most of the things I was able to accomplish, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't a part of the distributor group and the inner like TechnoTutor group and self-perfected of actually seeing what's possible. Because you see someone else doing something, you're like, what? Like you can do that with TechnoTutor, and you do it, and it ends, and like it happens. Like you see it in real life, when you've done it, when other people tell you, oh shit, that's really cool, that's when you have it. You see?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that's like a shift of going from I ran, being that kid who hides behind his pain, never even wanting a single dollar bill in his pocket, like feeling guilty about everything. I remember my mom bought me like this Apple Watch, is like the first series. It's like $300, and I felt so guilty. I was like, I don't deserve this, So
Wow.
it's like going from that to now helping people achieve whatever they want. It's like that shows the tools, right? And
Yeah.
so,
I mean, and think about too, like those families that you support with TechnoTutor. Like,
mhm,
where would they be if you didn't step up and take that responsibility? Like, that's what's
mhm,
that's another cool aspect of this is by you just taking that responsibility, facing your fears, going and building the business, right? Working on yourself. A couple
mhm,
months later, now you are literally like changing what's possible for these families and then their network.
mhm. Yeah.
And like that's the type of one plus one change that's
Mhm,
possible. And I mean, I've seen it happen really fast. Just like, yeah, what you're
mhm.
saying. I mean, what? So that was in the past 14 months, you
Yeah.
basically had that.
If that,
Pretty
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So,
That's yeah, that kind of brought back a lot of my memories of like early on with TT. Because I had a similar thing where I'm like,
mhm,
I don't understand like I even got the demo and everything, and I'm like, I kind of understand
mhm,
it. What really blew me away though is like meeting so many people that are like, yeah, I
mhm,
just use the tool every day, and they showed me how they would do it. I was like, okay, you
mhm.
know what? Let me just join this group. They said they'll support me for life, so like, if as long as I'm in the group, I'll find a way to make it work, right? Little
That's
did I
huge.
know what the
That
tool.
support. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, little did I know what the tool would actually do for me. And
Mhm,
so I remember I got it. I'm just using it every day. They're like 30 minutes a day. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do 2 hours
mhm.
a day, right? So I'm doing all that, and
Yeah.
it took me like 3 weeks. I'm starting to like get all these connections made. My like, when you have that aha epiphany moment.
Oh yeah.
I had multiple times where I would have like an epiphany followed by another one and another one and another one. I'm like, oh my God. And at a certain point, I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, all those books that I was reading in the past that I was barely comprehending, I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that's like what all of them were talking about was this, right? It's like basically how to
Yeah.
take information, build a system, and then apply it and then affect change in the world. Like that's what it really
Mhm.
comes down to. And
Yeah.
so I'm using that, right? I'm doing my e-commerce business. I end up breaking through. So like that glass ceiling I had was 3K a month, right? I'd make
Mhm.
3K and I would find some way to sabotage myself. So
Yeah.
finally with TechnoTutor, I hit a day where I was like still stuck, but then I called Kien and he's like guiding me through how to use my TechnoTutor and self-forgiveness to like break through. And I remember
Mhm.
like I had this huge, it wasn't even a miraculous insight per se, but I was like, wait, why am I still doing this particular activity? I'm like, what if I just did this instead? If I just spent 4 hours a day doing this instead of that, like that would probably work. Voila. By the next day, I'm like, yep, it's working.
Yeah.
A week later, I made 5K. Right. The next month I made 10K, bump up to 20K.
Yeah.
And that's like profit, right?
Hmm.
Then I remember then it was what 2020. It was the beginning of that new year then, right? So it was right before COVID. I made
Yeah.
in the first 17 days of the year, I made $250,000 in revenue in 17 days. I'm like, and what was so cool is I wasn't like, thank you God for the miracle. Like I'm so lucky. It was like,
Hmm.
oh, I understand exactly why this works. Cool.
Hmm.
Now I can replicate it. So now no one can take that away from me, right? The business can collapse and I have the understanding to go do this somewhere else, right? So that was phenomenal.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
then so that was really cool, right? So I'm sitting on all this cash now. And then COVID happens and it was like Chinese New Year and I was doing business with China for the supply chain. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, pause. Sitting on all this cash. I had about a 10-day waiting period. I'm like, what is this COVID thing? And at this time, I was in Houston for the first time. Cam and
Yeah.
Katie invited me down to get mentorship from them, and because I had become a distributor, and I wasn't
Yeah.
really taking the distributorship super serious right away, but
Hmm.
I saw what TechnoTutor was doing for myself, for my family, for my friends, and I was like, I got it. It's like my responsibility to share this thing. Like I'd be a selfish
Yeah.
asshole if I didn't share this. And I remember hanging out with the Copes in Houston and really looking at it for myself of like, wow, yeah, I could get rich from ecom and sell a bunch of random products like pillows and shoe inserts and just random shit that people don't really need. It's going to end up in a landfill. People are paying it on
Hmm.
credit cards. Like, and I'm just sending a shitload of money to Facebook and Alibaba. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to become really rich doing that. And at the end of the day, guess what? After COVID, everything got all messed up because Amazon and the big giants clamped down even more. And in that
Hmm.
world, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's basically going to be a few people at the top, and all these people who are trying to get into e-com because it looks fun. You're screwed.
Yeah.
You're screwed. You cannot go up against a budget like Amazon. Like
Hmm.
Amazon will outspend you and fucking drown you. And so, for anyone who thinks
Yeah.
e-com's the solution, no, no.
Yeah.
I had to see that for myself though, because I was making the money and I knew how to do it. I was like, God, like I just want to hide behind my computer screen and do that. But I'm like, who the
Hmm.
fuck would I be if that's my legacy? I just make money in ecom only. Like, please.
Yeah.
So I had to get real self-honest again. And I looked at the TechnoTutor business. I was like, wow, who would I need to be to actually
Hmm.
really build this thing and really affect change? So took that on. That's then how I met Jessica, my now fiance. She was one of my
Hmm.
first sales members, right? Of my sales
Yeah.
team. She's using the tool. She's growing like crazy. She got a promotion at her other job. She's had dyslexia. She's like
Hmm.
fixed her dyslexia. I'm like,
Hmm.
dang, you can watch her testimonial as well. It's somewhere on YouTube, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just seeing this. I'm like, damn, this is amazing. Now, May rolls around last year and the whole George Floyd thing happens, like
Yeah.
right by where we live. So I'm seeing firsthand so much going on. But see, the thing is, this type of stuff, whether you call it just like police community relations, there being a lot of hostility there, people rioting, people being fed up, people feeling hopeless, that type of thing, that still happens all around the world all the time. But it's very different when it's in your backyard or when I'm
Yeah.
like I'm like looking at like the Snapchat maps and like seeing these reports of like a lot of shit happening. I'm like, dang, like this is not good. But again, I
Hmm.
had a moment of self-honesty of like, who am I in this? Am I gonna just say, yep, city's going to shit? That's just the way it is. That's what's gonna happen to cities. Or do I say this city needs support specifically through education now more than ever? Who am I?
Hmm.
Am I going to be the person who just runs? Or am I going to be the person who says, I have something of value and a system here that we can support people at scale so that in 10, 15 years, this city can become an example of what's possible for cities around the world. And that's when I
Hmm.
took, right? So I've been using my TechnoTutor ever since, networking, building community. We have a whole team here. Now, I mean, Jess
Hmm.
and I have taken on a lot of responsibility. We're getting involved in the political scene here as well, which I would have never ever thought I could do this. I might have read books on politicians, but did I actually see myself even having that desire within me of like, oh, we can actually change things if we get into politics. So I think in a moment, let's get into where everything's headed for us. But just with for me, so since COVID, like I see what people are saying online about, oh, COVID's tough, or it's all times are hard and all that, and now the risk of inflation, all this stuff happening in the world, and the stability that I've got from using TechnoTutor and sharing it with other people. We've built a stable network of people, I mean, here locally, but also, around the world. And that's what self-perfected is that network. And you'll see, self-perfected and TechnoTutor go hand in hand. Because it's people that are really dedicated to, one, stabilizing themselves, figuring their shit out, and finally getting out of a shitty financial situation and life situation, right? So we can actually be real people with real ability to influence, talk to people, network, connect, and be of value. Now, as these people are really stepping up, and like, it's, oh man, like some of these stories, like Bruce and Kristen, if you haven't seen their testimony, Jaffer, Saeed, there's just so much going on with with people, with what people have done so far. And I have so much gratitude for this opportunity, because I've seen how that stability that comes through the business of TechnoTutor, that is remarkable. And I mean, that's why, you and I both build this every day, is because we see what's possible. So,
and these are real life miracles. It's not like, oh, cool, they changed. It's like, no, like when you hear their stories, it's like fucking miracles that happen. Like, without it, it's like I've sold to so many people and supported them who told me, like, if I didn't have this and I didn't have the support, I would straight up like kill myself because of how everything was going, right? And like, they're not joking, like they were really depressed, right? And
I've had that too. And people where they will literally, it's like I'm sharing TechnoTutor with them. They can see how it can change their life, and they'll resist it. They'll be like, no, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready. Give me time. And it's like they'll kind of fight me on it. But they're also there at the same time telling me, but I want a better life, but I'm not ready to change yet. But guess what? It's me as a salesman. Who am I going to be? Am I going to be the one who says, oh, they're not ready for it? Okay, just good luck. Go on your own way. Or am I going to fucking take a stand for this person and say, hey, I'm committed to help you change. I mean, you got to be committed too, but I'm going to be here for you. And we work together to come up with a plan. Then they get TechnoTutor. They may, even in that moment, might be like, I'm still not sure, but I got them through it. And guess what? 1 month later, 2 months later, they're fucking calling me. Some of them crying on the phone saying, thank you. Thank you for believing in me, getting me this tool, helping me break through all my bullshit, because this is what I needed. And they were holding themselves there. And so that's part of, with TechnoTutor, what the responsibility is to not be shy and not be afraid of like, oh, they'll find it on their own. It's like, they ain't going to find it on their own yet. Give us a few more years and they will, because it'll be mainstream. But for now, it's like, it's on us, to talk about it,
and it's like that, the point of, what separates us from, let's say, other sales companies, let's say, first of all, other companies don't actually have a tool that really, again, changes people's life. It's more like, oh, let's sell this, make money, and this product, it'll help them a little bit, so they'll feel good for a bit, but then it's not like permanent change, right? But also, when we talk to people, like our clients or whoever is interested in this, it's like we build a relationship with them, and the way we show them TechnoTutor is not like, oh, hey, you need to buy this, like, buy this, I'm gonna call you every day until you buy. Like, that is what people have of salespeople, of like that pushy and that being annoying, like that's what they think. But it's like, no, what we do is we actually educate them, because that's what we're all about, education. So it's like, it's really good salespeople are those who actually educate and motivate, right? Instead of like being pushy and building up resistance, right? Because even if you be pushy and let's say they buy, they're not really gonna use it because they fucking hate you. But the
Yep.
way we do it is like we show it, they see it for themselves of why, where they are, why they need to change, and how this tool and the support can help them get there. Like that's the difference of why our clients, and I say our because I know for a fact, because I've talked to your clients, you've talked to mine, is like they become more passionate every single day the more they use this product. And it's only 30 minutes a day. Like think about it, 30 minutes, not fucking sitting in a classroom for 8 hours for 12 years. It's fucking 30 minutes a day, anytime. Like you can go camping, you can use it, you can be on an airplane, you can be at your home, where the fuck ever you want. It's in front of a pool, in the pool. It's like you could do this. That's how cool this is, right? So I just want to emphasize that point is like, we actually care about supporting people. We're just not saying that just to sell. It's like we actually don't sell to people who don't want to fucking change. You see what I mean?
I've intentionally not sold to people because I can tell they're
Yeah,
not actually serious about taking responsibility for their lives. So I just tell them
exactly.
like, hey, come back to me, when you're finally teachable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so just to tell people, because we don't want to make this too long, and tell people just real quick where they can find Self-Perfected, the group, the podcast, like all of that, like the website and things like that. Like tell people where they can learn more and where they can connect with us and so forth, and we can like wrap it up there.
Yeah. So with Self-Perfected and everything, it is a growing community, right? It's people like us that want to create a better life for ourselves and for the world. Down the road, where it's headed is awesome, but you got to come on the Hangouts to see that, right? We'll share that in other content. But yeah, so self-perfected.com. We can link in the description here, a link to the group. You have to answer questions to get in, right? We're not just
Yeah.
here to fill up the group with people. It's a quality over quantity. We started out that way and it will stay that way. But yeah, and then to connect with me or Mayor, we'll put our links to our Facebook in the description. Reach out to us. We're happy to support. We're not going to chase you down, or we aren't going to prioritize trying to change you if you're not willing to change yourself. But if you can tell, like, hey, my life's kind of shitty, it could be better, I want to move and I don't necessarily know what to do, reach out. We're happy to support with that, and then plug you into this community, because where it's headed is the best ever. So
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, go to self-perfected.com, join the group. It's like when you hit join, there's a few questions. Again, we can't guarantee that you'll get in, because we're not just looking to just fill up the group with just everyone. We're looking for those who actually want to change themselves and have an impact and actually help people. So yeah, go ahead, do that, and get on the Hangouts that we do every Friday. It's going to change your life and everyone around you, right? So yeah, thank you for
perfect.
your time, Mitch. This is real cool.
Yeah, I got you, man.
And
It's fun.
yeah, for sure.
All right,
So we'll see you guys later. Bye.